Hello friends, good afternoon and welcome to EduSat Live Lectures. Dear friends, as you know that we have started a series on political geography, and today we have brought yet another lecture in the same series for you. The title of the lecture today is Critical Geopolitics. To discuss this topic, we have with us our subject expert Dr. Krishnendra Meena. Dr. Meena is Assistant Professor in CPOD in School of International Studies, JNU. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Sir to our studios and request him to start the lecture. Welcome, Sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, students. And today's lecture is on a very recent and a very contemporary topic in geopolitics in general and in political geography, because there is a brief. Let me give you a brief background to why it is important to understand critical geopolitics, because critical geopolitics has been born out of the critique which was provided to, or which has been done over the classical geopolitics, or some people call it traditional geopolitics, in which the likes of Halford Mackinder, Nicholas Spikeman and Ratzel were placed. It also is a critique to the Cold War geopolitics, and in general it has also been called as critique of classical geopolitics. But in conceptual senses, it is also a development in terms of in the larger strand of postmodern geopolitics, because it draws a lot from postmodern understandings of the international system. So without further delay, we should begin with our lecture, and let us look at how did the term originate, how critical geopolitics and what is the subject matter of critical geopolitics currently, and who are the scholars who play a very, very important role in the current geopolitics. The background to critical geopolitics is that in general, the understanding of space in geography, in the field of geography, over which we already had a lecture in the last class which I had done. So the conceptions of space were understood differently, apart from the absolute space, which were a very, very elementary understanding of space. David Harvey in 1972 and Henri Lefebvre, a French sociologist, contributed to new understandings of space, in which they provided a trifold trifold understanding of space, in which they used the terms like absolute space, relative space and relational space. And the hallmark, or the important part about these understandings of space by David Harvey and Henri Lefebvre were that they understood space as not only in the sense of Euclidean geometry or in purely geometrical sense, but they provided that every individual can have his or her own understanding of space, and therefore he can develop his own very perspective about the immediate surroundings around him, and furthermore about the larger surroundings, larger place which he inhabits. So with that, multiple conceptions of space arise, and this also helped us to understand that there can be many imaginations of space, there can be plurality of imaginations of space. And so the background was that there can be multiple understandings of space. That is the basic argument in these definitions of space. These definitions were then actually understood more in context of political geography and geopolitics by a very prominent political geographer, John Agnew, and his colleague Stuart Corbridge in 1995, and they provided the overall critique of traditional geopolitics by calling it by underlining the fact that theories or conceptual understandings which were given by the likes of Halford Mackinder, Nicholas Spikeman, Friedrich Ratzel, or Alfred Thayer Mahan, the naval power strategist or sea power strategist. So they visualize the whole world as a picture. So what was the flaw in visualizing the world as a picture? Because they were writing from their national perspectives, and they were writing from their individual perspectives also to understand the whole world, and to locate it at one particular point and trying to look at the whole world in itself is a flaw, John Agnew argued, because one cannot understand the whole world just by looking at the map or just by creating classifications on the basis of his or her own worldview. So that was the main critique, that the traditional geopolitical thinkers looked at the world as a picture rather than specifying, or rather than arguing for specificities of a particular place or the larger global space. The next critique by John Agnew for critical geopolitics is that the world pictured beyond the horizon is a source of chaos and danger. So what was visible to these gentlemen who expounded these concepts in traditional geopolitics, what was visible to them was very much legible, what was visible to them was very much order, but outside of what was not visible or beyond anything which was beyond the horizon was a source of chaos as opposed to order, and as opposed to harmony it was danger. So that also created those binaries of understanding the global space. So these were two major flaws with traditional geopolitics, John Agnew argued. But let us now look at the term itself, the term critical geopolitics itself. Let us understand that in general it is understood that the propounder of this term is Gerard Toll, but it is not the case. The coinage of the term came through, according to Professor Gerard Toll himself, came through a discussion which he was having with his academic supervisor, doctoral supervisor, John O'Loughlin. So during their conversation they came about with this term, because the whole project of Professor Toll's doctoral dissertation was to critique traditional geopolitical thinking. So this critique later on took on as the name of critical geopolitics, and it was then gradually established as a subdiscipline within the larger field of geopolitics. And it was more established, and the term was more reinforced with the publication of the book by Gerard Toll. The book was titled Critical Geopolitics, The Politics of Writing Global Space. So in this book, Gerard Toll argued that the writing about global space, the writing or the representation of global space in itself is very political in nature, and these theories or concepts in geopolitics, in traditional geopolitics, were a testimony to the same. So if we look at these concepts and these theories from traditional geopolitics, there is a clear-cut underline below these, or the undercurrent below these concepts is that these scholars were arguing their viewpoints to further their own national interests. And that is the major critique. There was a politics behind to promote their own national interests in the global space when they were writing these concepts or when they were thinking about these theories. Further, another important scholar within the realm of critical geopolitics is Klaus Dodds. Klaus Dodds argues that the most important aspect or the most important elements of critical geopolitics are discourse and representational practices. And it should be understood that there can be many ways the world can be represented, and it is to these representations that it is through these representations that we understand the whole world. And behind these representations there are multiple discourses, not one discourse, but multiple discourses which make the world legible to us, which make the world understandable to us, which make us feel that what is presented before us is the real picture about the world. Whereas that is not the case. and that is where discourse, it is very important to investigate the discourses behind the creation of a particular statement, behind the creation of a particular argument, and one should also then investigate and examine the representational practices which come in the form of maps, documents, media reports, the newspaper cuttings, cinema. All these media sources have to be examined to understand geopolitics in the present era. And to that all this subject matter comes under the field of critical geopolitics. And that is how these scholars were arguing while trying to understand critical geopolitics. Then let us then move towards what discourses are, because to understand critical geopolitics, it is very important to understand what a discourse is, and we should understand discourse through a very important philosopher of our times, Michel Foucault, a French philosopher, and understand how discursive formations come about, how discourses are created, and what are the underlying elements of critical discourse. Michel Foucault calls the discourse is a term which is used in normal parlance even within the academia, but the term which was preferred by Michel Foucault himself is discursive formation. So he argues that the meaning of language is not transparent and immediately obvious. It is the words, statements and symbols, metaphors and so on that mean different things in different contexts. So it is the way we speak about things, it is also very important. Rather than understanding things as facts, we should understand things through the language which is being used to define them. And because every word, every spoken word means something. So the words provide meaning to these things, words provide meanings to different elements, words provide different meanings to different objects. And it is important to understand these words, statements and symbols and metaphors in their etymological sense, in their origin, so that we can understand what is being said to understand what object. And it is also important then the meaning of this particular statement also depends partly on who is saying it and how it is being said, because context matters a lot. It is important because if it is important to understand that the person who is saying it has a particular historical circumstances, particular political, sociological circumstances which make him say what he is saying. And it is also important that to understand how he is saying it. But it is further more important to understand that the statements made by individuals also fit into an existing wider pattern of statements, symbols and understandings. So it is not the individual, what the individual says which is important, but it is also important to understand in what larger context or in what larger debate, what larger symbols within the gamut of larger symbols or understanding, wider pattern of statements, which is being said. And it is this wider pattern which Foucault calls discursive formation, or in general it has also been called as discourse analysis or discourse in very common parlance. And so the whole idea is to understand that to provide meanings to different objects, to different things, to different events, there is a larger set of sentences, statements which are made, which have particular context, which exist within a larger pattern of statements and symbols. That has to be brought to light, and this wider pattern is understood as a discursive formation or a discourse. And these discourses also go on to make a substantial part of what we understand now as critical geopolitics. Within discourse analysis, it is also important to understand the relationship between discursive and material, because all material things take meaning when they are connoted with a language, or they are provided with a word. So a chair becomes a chair because there is a word for an object which has 4 legs, which has a back, and which has back support. So it becomes a chair because there is a word for it. We identify quickly the chair with this word because in language a certain kind of an object is known as chair. So there is a relationship between what is material, that is the chair itself, and the discursive term for it, or the term which is used in language for it. So that is, there is a relationship between the material and discursive within the larger discourse analysis. It also understands within the discursive formation, it is understood that this politics in itself is a process. It is not an event, it is not a science, but politics is a process, and it is an ongoing process which has these 4 very important features, that it is constituted through geographically and historically situated social and institutional practices. So any discourse has an imprint of geography and history. So it is important to understand where an event has happened, or why it is where it is happening, as it is important to understand when it is happening. What is the historical and social circumstances to that? What are the institutional practices which have gone on to create that larger context, larger environment for a particular event to happen, and why the geographical circumstances are provided by laying focus, by providing focus to the place where these events happen. Further, again, those practices are both material and discursive in character. These practices exist not only in the language, but they also exist in material. So there are institutions which are present there, so there are groups which carry out certain activities, so there are people who carry out certain activities. So it is not only the discursive aspect which is important, but equally important is the material aspect. So a combination of these creates this larger discourse, and one can arrive at a discourse analysis by looking at both material and discursive practices, by analyzing them in a larger context. One must also understand that practices are purposeful and strategic. Every practice, because politics is a process, politics in itself is about planning to achieve, also about planning to achieve certain ends. So all the practices are purposeful and strategic. They are purposeful because to attain certain goals, within the society, within the larger process of politics, groups are created to attain certain ends. So there is purposeful action behind them, and there is a strategy which is being followed. So these all the actions are strategically motivated. And the last important feature of discourse analysis or interpretation in discourse analysis is that practices depend on the availability of unequally distributed resources. One can understand that geographically resources are distributed unequally across the world, unevenly across the world. And it is through the availability of these resources that most of the nation states in the international system bargain. So some nation states specialize in a different resource, others specialize in a different resource. But a very critical aspect to the same is that some nation states or some group of states have majority of the resources in terms of financial resources, economic resources to shape these discourses. And the nation states, within the context of international system, the nation states which have lesser resources, not only in terms of financial and economic resources, but also human resources or resources, natural resources which are provided by the nature, they play a very important role in forming the debate. So there is forming the discourse. So there is the other group which has less resources may not be able to put forward its position very, very clearly or very forcefully at the international level. So the dominant discourses will be the ones which are backed by larger resources, and that is how we must understand that discourses are shaped by the states, by the nation states which have larger amount of resources. And that is very true also in the debate on environment. So the resources to conduct conduct researches and experiments about environment are aplenty with the developed world or the north, global north, and that is how they shape the debate around environment, because the availability of resources to conduct research, important research about environment. So it is through their studies, it is through their research that most of the world understands the environment. It is the environmental problems are also understood through the researches or experiments conducted by the global north. Because the global south lacks these resources, their contribution to the discourse on environment becomes less important, because their researches their research has not attained probably wider publicity, or their research is not backed by the financial resources required to conduct very high quality research. We now look at some examples of representation. So as has been stated earlier, that discourses and representation are the hallmarks of critical geopolitics. We must understand that representations come in various forms, not only through academia, not only through mass media, but cinema, novels, cartoon, or for example maps. Official documents are also form a part of representation of a nation states or a nation's viewpoint or a nation's vision. Within that, but since we are focused more about in this lecture about the academic understanding of critical geopolitics, we should look at the writings within geopolitics about within geopolitics as forms of representation. So Friedrich Ratzel, when he was writing about laws of spatial growth of states towards the end of the 19th century, he was motivated by one question: what is the best relationship of a state to its territory and how the state can grow? But the representation was totally different. The representation came in the form of laws of spatial growth of states. So he was representing his own national interests, in this case Germany, because Germany at that point was rising very fast in terms of economy, in terms of science, in terms of technology, engineering. All kinds of intellectual developments were happening in Germany during the late 19th century. So within that, he argued that Germany occupies a very important place in Europe, and it should occupy a very important place in the international system in general. And that's why he argued that because of the vibrance of its culture and the growth in its science and technology, Germany, and the growth of its population, Germany should occupy a larger area within Europe. It should expand territorially. So it was within the larger context that he was thinking of the national interest of Germany. Similarly, to the most cited paper from geopolitics, from traditional geopolitics, Halford Mackinder's Geographical Pivot of History, or the concept of heartland, also had a very important key question, that is, how can the state be reformed so that its empire can be strengthened? He was speaking about the empire which the British had created since the 16th, 17th century, and he wanted or he by understanding the British Empire, he was trying to actually strengthen the case for the concretization of reinforcement of British Empire in the international system. So he argued that since and again he was located at within the British system in the United Kingdom, and United Kingdom in itself on its mainland had a very small territory. So he looked at a very huge landmass because of the deficiency within the United Kingdom of a huge landmass. He argued that such a landmass in the form of heartland, which was located in Eastern Europe and Eurasia, to become a very important global power. And within that, he explained that if that important mass of land was occupied, that could make the United Kingdom a very important power in the international system in the years to come. Otherwise, there was a decline which the United Kingdom's empire was witnessing, a decline. Similarly, Alfred Thielemann, a Mahan naval strategist or sea power theorist, argued that from the one vantage point of the United States of America, argued that it is the sea power which is going to play a very important role in the international system. So the geopolitics will be framed around, or the geostrategy should be framed around what was known as the oceanic highway of the world, or the oceans of the world. So as opposed to the ideas about Halford Mackinder, Alfred Thielemann argued that it is important that we focus more on sea power rather than land power. And so these were representations coming from different scholars about, and these were their own individual viewpoints, which are now critiqued extensively and intensively through the field of critical geopolitics. We should be moving to the next part of this lecture after a small break. Thank you. Let us begin with the second part of the lecture, which focuses on the subject matter of critical geopolitics. According to a very important scholar of critical geopolitics, a British scholar, Klaus Dodds, again he argues that the subject matter of critical geopolitics should be attentive not only to high politics of states, intergovernmental organizations and territorial space, but it should also be attentive to various other institutions like media groups which have particular interests in the how the world is run or how the world functions. So it is not only about the higher politics which is conducted by the state organizations or intergovernmental organizations which are formed by an amalgam of a lot of states. They may be regional organizations, they may be organizations which are under the aegis of the United Nations, international organizations, and geopolitics should not only look at territorial space as its subject matter, but it should also analyze and interpret what media says, what groups, various social groups say, and what other institutions apart from the state-centric institutions argue. So it is not only about visions which are propagated by the state, by nation states around the world, but also about a lot of other visions which are formulated and represented by organizations like media, other groups, academia, novels, cartoons. They should also form a part of the subject matter of critical geopolitics. It is also very important, according to Klaus Dodds, to understand geographical information in all forms, whether in the form of electromagnetic maps. We are all aware that now maps do not come only in the form of in the form of papers, but they also are found increasingly in across the monitors around the world, and that is a form of electromagnetic transmission. And paper charts or virtual data or documents, because all this geographical information is geopolitical in nature, because it has contributed to the struggle over space for so many centuries in history. So that has to be clearly defined. Geographical information has to be dissected to understand which geographical information has favored a particular kind of adventure or particular kind of venture by a particular state. One can also, within this realm, can critique the available maps which we have. So certain kinds of maps put most of the maps, in fact, put the European continent at the center of the world, because these maps were created in Europe. So they put Europe in the center of the world, and that allowed us to develop a certain kind of world vision for a long time to come. But there have been now critiques of the European maps which show as the Europe as the center of the world, because it has created a bias in the academia in general and in the way how we view the world, how an individual understands the world. Further, Klaus Dodds argues that we should, or geopolitics should acknowledge that the capacity of people to influence the world around them depends on the availability of resources and knowledge. So it goes back again to the discursive formations or to the discourse analysis. So one can frame the debate or one can frame the world around himself or herself with the judicious use of resources and knowledge available to individuals. We can influence people around us by our knowledge, by the resources which we have, because we can frame arguments in support of our beliefs. And similarly, that is what the states do in the international system. So they create the arguments which are important, which favor their own national interests, and propagate them vigorously at the international stage. Now let us look at the 5 basic tenets of critical geopolitics by by a very important scholar called by 2 very important scholars, Gerard Toll and Simon Dalby, who argued that critical geopolitics has 5 basic tenets, and with these 5 basic tenets, we can actually lay down the basic background, basic framework for critical geopolitics. So, their first important understanding, or their first basic tenet, is that geopolitics is a broader cultural phenomenon. They argue that it is not only the statements run, or not only the statements made by the leaders of a particular state, but also it should be understood that the statements which are being said by the leaders of a particular country or a particular nation state have a deep cultural background, have a deep mythological background, and it is through the understanding of the history of a particular nation state that we can understand the geopolitics of a particular nation, or the geopolitical statements made by its leaders. So, its mythology of this particular nation state, the national understanding of a particular state, the national symbols which are there, the most important symbols to which a very important part of this nation state ascribes to, go on to make or contribute to the formation of the statements which these leaders make. Inherent within this broader cultural phenomenon is the domestic politics which is there. Within that, there are important groups which important interest groups which actually mold the discourse within a particular state, and that then becomes the larger mainstream line of this particular state. And within this understanding, these states argue, or these states argue, that this is the larger understanding of this nation states. Within it is also possible that a lot of voices which are there cannot may be stifled within that, but what comes out is the majority view of this particular state. And before these statements come out, there is this large background to it, and that is what these two scholars called as the broader cultural phenomenon. So, it should be understood as a broader cultural phenomenon. Critical geopolitics also argues that it also brings our attention to boundary drawing practices, not only at the national level, at the edge of the state, which is the most important element or actor in the international system, which is also studied the most vigorously in geopolitics, but it also lays attention to the boundary drawing practices within society within a particular state. So, we have a lot of groups which apart from the territorial space which a particular nation state inhabits, there are various social constructions of these boundaries which happen within the society. So, geography in terms with their territorial boundaries, or the geopolitical space, which is the bounded territory of a particular space, though provides us with the provides us the geographical background for the creation of the other, or or it creates these binaries of inside, outside, domestic, foreign, national, international, but it is also important to understand that within the larger discourse, a lot of construction of these boundaries goes on within the societies. It is not only the presence of boundaries which creates the boundaries of self and other, or we or them, but it is also the discourse which creates the boundaries, and critical geopolitics provides attention to that. They further argue that geopolitics is not a singularity, it is a plurality, and it is a plurality because there can be multiple understandings of a particular event. There can be multiple possible constructions of a particular phenomenon. So, again taking the example of environmental problems, we can argue that environmental problems are understood differently by small island states, they are understood differently by developed states, they are understood differently by large developing economies, they are understood differently by equatorial countries, they are understood differently by temperate countries, they are understood differently by countries which are totally landlocked. So, there is a lot of variation in understanding a particular problem, and because of their specific circumstances, individuals also have different visions about world politics. So, as do the states. So, there are multiple possible constructions of space. That is why geopolitics is that is what they argue, geopolitics are. So, there are a lot of geopolitics for a particular phenomenon, for a particular event, for any event of international importance, for any event of national importance, or even a larger all pervading event like globalization, or this phase of globalization has multiple understandings, and it has multiple effects on space in general, and that is why there are plural, there is that is why geopolitics becomes a plurality, and because there are multiple possible constructions of space. Space can be understood differently by different groups, different peoples, different societies, different tribes, different nationalities, different citizens of different countries, all different people have. And for example, there is this very important diagram which these two scholars provide within this to understand this plurality of geopolitics, and this diagram can be broken down to understand how states or how nation states shape their geopolitical world vision. So, they argue that within critical geopolitics there are three major strands in which research could be conducted, through which larger geopolitics is understood. So, the first important branch is popular geopolitics, within which mass media, cinema, novels and cartoons are analyzed and understood, because through these media what states do, or what state organizations do, or different organizations do, is educate people about different issues of international importance. So, the representation of the United States in a lot of Hollywood cinema is of a very benign country, which stands for all good, a lot of good in the international system, and that a lot of this cinema educates people about the United States geopolitical vision of the world, or United States vision of the international system. They also underline the United States viewpoint on various issues. One can look at a very interesting film by Alessandro Gutierrez, Gutierrez, called the cinema is called Babel, which looks at globalization from a totally different perspective. There is more cinema which looks at Gulf War. There is cinema which looks at the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So, because this cinema comes from Hollywood or from American film industry, it tends to promote the American world vision. Similarly, novels, because they are written in a particular language, they are written from a particular social circumstance, social situation, political understanding, they also educate people about different societies. And cartoons also educate people. Cartoons are very geopolitical in nature. We have witnessed that in the case of cartoons by a very important by this magazine called Charlie Hebdo in France, how geopolitical they can be and how they influence people's world vision, and if there are oppositions to that, because in that case the geopolitical vision of a few few people who were running this particular magazine clashed, or they was not particularly appreciated by or not liked by a different set of people. So there can be a different understanding of a particular important event of important international event. The practical geopolitics part, according to critical geopolitical thinkers, is conducted by the machinery of statecraft or the state apparatus, within which all gamut of institutions are included. So there are foreign policy makers, foreign policy bureaucracy, the ministries which are run there, the political institutions which are there, which contribute to the creation of the practical geopolitics. They actually conduct geopolitics in the international system. So a lot of diplomats are involved in that, a lot of bureaucrats which frame policy are involved in that. So the ministers, the leaders of the democratically elected leaders, or sometimes not only democratically elected leaders, but also leaders who have chosen or who are authoritarian in nature, or are also conducting practical geopolitics through their diplomatic relationships with various other nation states. And further, the formal geopolitics is conducted by strategic institutes, think tanks and academia. So there are a lot of think tanks which run, there are universities which conduct research on various issues of international importance, which actually inform the practical geopolitical practitioners. Similarly, the popular geopolitical practitioners also inform practical geopolitical practitioners. So the practice is informed by all kinds of researches which are conducted. There are viewpoints which come from think tanks. Every now and then there are conferences which are organized by the state apparatus, by ministries, by various think tanks which belong to the various ministries. So they contribute to these to the formation of geopolitics in general, and later on these viewpoints then are actually transformed into practical geopolitics by the state machinery. And all these three kind of geopolitics, what they do is that they spatialize, or they create a geopolitical map of the world by spatializing boundaries and dangers. So they inform us that these are the boundaries of a particular nation state, and these are the dangers which a particular nation state faces. And this is very geopolitical in nature, because there is this a lot of element of space is involved in this larger geopolitics which is conducted. And then which makes us also understand these spatializing of boundaries and dangers also then leads to the creation of self and the other. And this is represented in various forms, through maps, through documents, through various representations in the international system. So for example, what exists within the Indian territory is Indian society, what exists within the Indian territory is India, what lays outside of it is the other, or there are various similar states like Bangladesh, Pakistan, China, they are the other, and we living in this territory which is called India are Indians. So this spatialization is done not only through the statesmen, but also through various other forms which are covered within popular geopolitics, formal geopolitics and practical geopolitics. This in general shapes the geopolitical imagination of a particular nation state. And it is very important to understand the geopolitical imagination of a nation state, and that is where critical geopolitics plays a very, very formative role. The fourth basic tenet of critical geopolitics is that the practice of studying geopolitics or interpreting it can never be politically neutral. Every individual within, if we were to understand it very elementarily, every individual is a product of its political circumstances, or his or her political circumstances. Him or her is informed by people, not only people or by people around him or her, but also the politics which happens around him or her. A lot of politics happens around every individual. Even within our immediate surroundings, there is a lot of politics which happens, and in the larger context of nation states, there is more politics. There is a lot of politics which happens, and so in the realm of geopolitics, this world vision of a particular individual who is trying to understand geopolitics, who is studying geopolitics, or who writes about geopolitics. So the observer of geopolitics can never be politically neutral. He or she is informed by the circumstances in which, or political circumstances in which he or she is brought up, in which he or she is living currently. So that the politics of a person, of an individual, plays a very important role in understanding the geopolitics and geopolitical understanding, geopolitical imagination of that person. Further, the last and important basic tenet of critical geopolitics is that critical geopolitics is situated reasoning. This brings us to the very important historical and social aspect of geopolitics. So, it is argued within this situated reasoning argument that most of the world vision of different geopolitical thinkers is framed by the technical or technological circumstances in which they were living, in which they are, in their own contemporaneous technological setting. So, a Mackinder could visualize a heartland only on the basis of the availability of technology of railroad. So, he could visualize a heartland on the basis of railroad, because he understood that if very well connected by railroad, this particular area can become the heartland of the world, or the most important strategic fortress of the world. For Mahan, the technology was naval technology. So, that played a very important role for him in the world vision. So, it was their technological and territorial circumstances that created this reasoning which they were providing. And critical geopolitics makes us understand that, makes us interpret that. And now we should look at the key concepts which are there within this larger field of critical geopolitics. For the last 45 minutes or so, we have been speaking about critical geopolitics' subject matter, its content, the major philosophical strands which it invokes, the definition of multiple understandings of space which it invokes, it tries to understand, and it wants to make sense of in the international system. We should also now look at the key concepts within critical geopolitics. The most important concept within critical geopolitics is that of geopolitical imaginations, because that allows us the leverage, or that allows us the space to understand or to underline the fact that it is not, the geopolitics is not only about one person's imagination of the global space, but there can be various geopolitical imaginations emanating from various nation states or from various individuals around the world. So, we as academics or intellectuals may be writing for a particular national interest, but inherent in these national interests is our own geopolitical imagination of the international system. So, geopolitical imaginations play a very critical role in understanding the world. The second important concept is representations. It is important to understand how the world is represented in the international system, how the world is geographically represented in the international system, and it informs a lot of our understanding of the world. Because if we look at the maps which have been created, as I have said, the example has been cited earlier, that if you look at the map of the world which are most used or which are most in circulation, you will find Europe is placed at the center of the world. So, and that allows us only a particular kind of geopolitical imagination. Those representations of international system, those representation of international importance, or events of international importance allows us certain kinds of imaginations. So, representations by various states, by various organizations, by various groups, interest groups play a critical role in how we understand the world. It also is important within critical geopolitics to understand that there is a discourse which is there about every event, and it is that event can never be understood in neutral terms, or any phenomenon, geopolitical phenomenon cannot be understood in neutral terms, but there are a lot of discourses involved, lot of debates, discussions involved in creation of that larger understanding of that phenomenon or an event. That goes on to shape our understanding of that event. And critical geopolitics wants to underline the fact, or it intends to underline the fact, that we should examine those discourses, various discourses about a particular event, rather than looking at the most dominant perspective of that particular event. Critical geopolitics also moves geopolitics away from the state. So, we have looked at various formulations. We looked at the diagram also, wherein we argued that it is there are two other kinds of geopolitics apart from practical geopolitics, that is popular geopolitics and formal geopolitics. So, they move away geopolitics from the state itself. There are various other interest groups, organizations, institutions which conduct geopolitics, which knowingly or unknowingly carry out geopolitics. Cinema does that. Various news channels do that. So, that is how we understand our world. So, it is not only about not only the state-centric view which is important, but it is also about various other viewpoints in the international system. Critical geopolitics also makes us understand, or a very important aspect about critical geopolitics is that it focuses, it emphasizes or it moves away from the state, the creation of binaries within the international system. So, the creation of these binaries of self, other, creation of the binaries of national, international, domestic, foreign, inside, outside are all not only creations of the state, because it is a bounded unit, bounded territorial unit which has a particular geographical space in absolute terms, but this space is continuously reified by the discourses which are there about this particular space, and that's how it creates a lot of binaries. So, dear students, this is in general the subject matter of critical geopolitics. Thank you.
On that note, I would like to thank sir for this very enriching discussion, and thank you dear friends for watching our show. Stay tuned and keep watching. Thank you.